Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gypsy Poet Radio here on blogtalkradio.com/GypsyPoet. I am the Gypsy Poet, and of course with me is the mysterious, sparkling, and very funny Girl George. Yes, people, Girl George, say it with me. Girl George, Girl George, Girl George, Girl George. What a great show. Oh, goodness gracious. Darrin Drda. He has some really incredible stories to share with us this afternoon on GPR, so please give him a warm welcome. And, of course, Girl George, are you with me? Darrin, everybody, hello?
Hi, Darrin, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. Oh, I know Darrin well from the Story Plow. He used to play there all the time when I ran the open mic there. For a fact, I think you were my co-host on the last night I ran it, right?
Was that the very last night? I know I was co-host.
That was the very last
times.
night after 8.5 years.
Whoa.
So this is our last show of me and Gypsy together, too. After a year, I'm going to spin off my own show starting next week. She'll still do her show, but I'm doing my own show with my own name on it this time.
Well, I'm all about endings, I guess.
Yes.
And new beginnings.
All about endings.
Yes.
Well, I figure we should get you because you're the most interesting person I know. You've been around the world, haven't you?
Well, that is high praise coming from you, George. Because
haven't you been to Tibet and all those places?
People, I haven't been to Tibet, but I have been to many places in the that area: India, Nepal, and further in East Asia, Indonesia, Thailand. You know. Been around a little bit.
And you're so talented. You sing, you write songs, you're a designer, you're an artist, you're a writer. My goodness.
Well, someone's got to do it.
Yes, someone's got. And your wife, you're married now. What a great name she's got. Annabella, is that her name?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
What a great name.
I've always liked that name, actually.
And she's so pretty. I've seen her on the web. What a pretty great guy. You lucky boy.
She's pretty.
Yes, she is very pretty. You deserve each other, I think.
Thank you so much. Well, thanks for having me on your show.
Yes, of course. I want to ask a little bit about your artwork. You got me very curious when Girl George mentioned you were a designer. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, well, the design bit is a bit of that's sort of the bread and butter, you know, what I was trained in when I went to school. So that's what I do now as sort of professionally. I design book covers and book interiors, but artistically, I go through various phases where and it's true musically, I suppose, as well, where I'll get involved in a given project and I'll sort of throw myself into it completely and, be in that phase for a while. And recently it's become digital artwork, so I'm happy to say that I've moved in that direction recently, although not doing as much music as I have in the past and actually probably would like to be doing, or maybe should be doing, but the artwork I'm really enjoying. So it's if you go to my Facebook page or elsewhere, you can see the images that I'm working on now. Most of those have to do with archetypal images. So I'm trying to put into image form the archetypes that rule our lives and that permeate the universe, the cosmos that we live in, which is a fun and interesting little challenge.
That's a good thing about open mics. You can just walk in and play any time without having to book it or practice a band or just come on down to Missouri sometime. You just come in and play. Yeah.
So where are you hosting open mics these days?
Oh, I'm not hosting. Well, I do it at the wherever it's called, Long Call, across from the Story Plow. I do that once a month. But the one I play at every week is Paul Putt's one on the Missouri Lounge.
Yeah, okay. Wonderful. Well, I commend you on that because I love the open mic scene. It's something I've always been interested in. In fact, before I've been both a participant in many open mics and I've also hosted many open mics as well. And so it's just, I don't know, I love that, exactly what you're talking about. That
well,
idea
that's
that
where the actual scene is, the underground scene, because that's where, everyone comes to, because at the gigs, you get the same people all the time. Your following follows you, and that's all you ever see. But the open mics, you see new people. They're just starting out playing. People who've been playing for 100 years, all kinds of people, So I like open mics. Always
yeah,
did.
Me too. It's fresh, it's live, it's raw, it's unprocessed and unfiltered in a way that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. True, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about your travels.
Okay, well, that was a sort of, I would say previous life sort of thing, but a very formative, definitely a formative stage in my life where I did a fair amount of traveling. I think the first trips were just actually way back when I used to take journeys with my grandparents who would take us kids once in a while on cruises and things like that. I remember going to Jamaica and Hawaii. Actually, I never went to Hawaii, but I went to a few other places. And then when I got older enough to make my own choices about where I wanted to go, I was drawn almost always to East Asian countries or the Far East and Central Asia, like I said, Thailand and Indonesia and so forth. And I did a lot of traveling in those areas and lived in India for about a year and a half or so. And it sort of took me a while to realize that almost all of those countries were Buddhist countries. And that's probably why I was drawn to them, because it's sort of deepened my interest in Buddhist practice and philosophy, and that's sort of where I spend a lot of my time sort of in terms of practice and where my mind tends to go these days. So, but at first I was just sort of feeling my way around, like, oh, that place looks interesting, and that place looks interesting, and then only later did I sort of connect the dots, and it was like, oh yes, I was being drawn, some part of my spiritual being was being drawn to these places. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful time in my life that I feel very fortunate to have experienced.
Is your wife an artist too, or a musician?
My wife is an astrologer.
Wow.
So, that's one, among other things, but that's her primary passion. And
does she do music too?
No, not in a sort of tangible form. She loves music and is very musical, but it's dancing is pretty much her thing.
Oh, cool. I used to be a dancer. What sign is she? I know you're a Leo.
Yeah, she's a Taurus. I'm a Leo. I'm a double Leo. I have a Leo sun, Leo moon, and Sagittarius rising. So it's all
my
fire.
grandson is a Leo. And then my daughter is a Taurus, so I know both signs.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm actually a double Sagittarius with the moon in Libra. So Sagittarius sun sign, Sagittarius rising with the moon in Libra. Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Sun, rising, and Mercury and Mars are all in Scorpio, so I got a lot of Scorpio.
Yeah, well, we could talk the whole rest of the show about astrology, because that's another one of my interests. And although that's come more recently, within probably the last 5 years, when I moved I used to live in the Midwest in Illinois, and that's back where I had a band and a bunch of other things going on. And when I moved to California, I moved out there basically to go to grad school, and the name of the school is California Institute of Integral Studies, which is in San Francisco. And the program that I went in, the grad school program, is called Philosophy, Cosmology, and Consciousness. So it sort of covers just about everything you can imagine a field of study covering. But one of those things was astrology, and I remember when I first got to the school, there was a guy who I was sitting and having a beer with or something, and he said, well, there's two kinds of people in the program, those who are really into astrology and those who will very soon be really into astrology. So I fell into the former latter camp there, because at the time I didn't know that much about it, but I've come since to appreciate it greatly as a wonderful art and a way to get to know oneself and others.
Well, I'm an old hippie, so, kind of, it was kind of part of the program back in the 60s.
I know I'm preaching to the choir here. Yeah.
I remember people's signs more than I remember their names.
Well, that's exactly like my wife Annabelle. She has we call her sort of the Rain Man of astrology. She seems to know. She'll remember people's charts and their rising and their what's on their descendant and all that stuff before she'll actually remember the name, the person's name. And for a lot of people, it's both surprising and it kind of freaks them out a little bit. because they're like, hey, I know you've got a Taurus rising and Mercury on your ascendant, and your mother has a Neptune rising, and I can't remember your name. So it can be a little freaky for some people, I guess.
Well, that way you know how to relate to them. See, if you come off to a fire saying too wrong, you get in a fight. Now, Tauruses are pretty mellow. They get along with pretty much everyone. But I'm a Scorpio. I don't get along with everybody. So I have to know who I have to tread lightly with.
There you go. Yeah, Scorpios. Intense.
Yeah.
Very intense.
Scorpio
very
intense.
Yeah.
And Tauruses are ruled by Venus, which people will probably know. Venus is the very archetype of harmony and beauty.
Yeah, my daughter's a Taurus, and we're still together. I live downstairs from her now. She's got 2 kids now. She's married, got 2 kids. I take care of the kids when they go to work. But we're still together. She's like 36. So I guess Scorpio and Taurus get along okay.
That seems to work, yeah. Well, who knows?
Well, she went off to college for 10 years, but then after she got married, she got a place underneath for me, so I could take care of the grandkids. I got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old grandkids.
Wow. Well, there you go. Surround yourself with Tauruses, and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So what are you doing now?
Like I said, I'm doing a lot of graphic design, and I've after college, after the grad program that I just talked about, I kind of went in the direction of writing. So the last probably 3-4 years, I've become a writer, and I was fortunate enough to have a book published 2 years ago now. It's called The 4 Global Truths, and it sort of fuses takes a lot of things that I learned in the program, but also the main gist of it is that I've fused a lot of Buddhist philosophy with basically what's happening ecologically and what's happening on the planet right now, not just ecologically, but socially, politically, and all that, and looking at all that through a Buddhist lens, basically. So that's kind of the vein that I've been writing in, and also writing for there's certain online journals that I write for, Reality Sandwich and Elephant Journal, and a couple others where I basically submit articles to them when I get a wild hair and feel like I have to write about something. So I think, and that's, I guess, one of the reasons why music has gone a little bit on the back burner in the last few years has been, most of the time, has been devoted to writing.
That's really cool. And congratulations on your book, by the way.
Thank you.
I happen to be a writer myself, so I know what it feels like to have a book published. So I've had 2 of my own, so I'm with you there.
Oh, beautiful, yeah.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about what you do musically. I want to know what you grew up with, what your influences were, whether it be music or art or whatever came your way.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's a great question. The odd thing is that I didn't grow up in a very musically oriented, artistically oriented household. My mom was interested in art earlier on in her life, but in terms of records playing and all that kind of stuff, there wasn't a lot of that. So most of that I discovered in high school and college, and really got into music. Back then, I think I started out my musical explorations. I mean, Kiss was, of course, the first rock band that I was really into back in the day. But after, sort of my formative years, I would say I was probably what we would call a new waver these days. I was into all that sort of post-punk stuff like Echo and the Bunnymen and The Cure and even Duran and some little bit more pop type bands, but kind of most of those European bands with weird hair. I was really that was kind of where it was at for me for a while. And then I went to college, and of course my musical horizons expanded quite a bit as they do, hopefully for many people during that period of time, because I had a lot of friends who were really into music, and they would put on the Bob Dylan, and so that there was a big, I guess, a period where I sort of then went back to reclaim the music that I missed from the 60s and 70s and all the greats that I'm sure everyone's familiar with now, and Hendrix and all that kind of stuff. And then, but I would say the sort of consistent strand that's run throughout my musical interest, and maybe one of the biggest influences, although strangely it doesn't really appear in my own music, is sort of the psychedelic stuff, especially the Flaming Lips. If you're familiar with them, they were a big interest of mine for many years, and I still like them, although they wander all over the place musically these
What
days,
about Dylan? What about Dylan?
Love Dylan, yeah. There's nothing not to like about Dylan. Well, I guess actually my wife would disagree with that.
She doesn't like Dylan?
Well, I do have friends who just say the thing about his voice, that it's just not, they love his lyrics.
Well, it's got nothing to do with his voice. What about his writing?
This is what I try to tell them. They don't get it. It's a hard argument to win when someone's sort of aesthetically, not quite aligned with something. It's hard to sing the other praises because people can't get past that small little thing. But for me, I love it, and I love all the various forms of Dylan as well. And from the time that we did have the more squeaky voice to go,
son is pretty good too. Have you heard his son Jacob?
I have, yeah.
He's starting to sound like Dylan, but his lyrics are really cool.
Yeah, well, it's hard.
I think his music is more advanced than his father's, but the lyrics are pretty similar to, the heaviness of them,
Yeah, interesting. Well, maybe I should look more closely at that, because I remember when he had a couple.
He's good.
Yeah, he had a couple of radio hits, and then I thought, well, maybe he's just too sort of commercial, not following in his dad's footsteps, as the eternal rebel sort of thing, which I, love that about Dylan. So, maybe I'll give it another try. But I would imagine it would be really hard to walk in the shadow of someone like Bob Dylan.
Lennon's kid sure had a hard time, but this kid, well, he kind of distanced himself from Dylan, and he had the wallflowers where people didn't even know it was Dylan's kid for a long time. He was famous.
Yeah, right. Well, I would imagine that the comparisons are absolutely inevitable. It would be hard to be taken seriously on your own merits in terms of what your own, whatever your artistic style is. It would inevitably be like, well, how does it sound like his dad? And
yeah, my daughter didn't want no part of show business because she didn't want to be, George Jr., which, I used to take her to loft parties and stuff since she was a baby, and all these artists would come up to her. Here she is, 5 years old, and they're like, what's it like to be George's kid? And she said, well, I don't know anything else. That's all I've ever known. What do you mean? What a silly question that is. So she was bound and determined not to be an artist. She thought we were all bums, and then she realized that everyone's a bum,
No, she's
and that artists are just a little more interesting.
Right. Well, what does she do now? Can I ask?
She's studying to be a school teacher. After all this time, she went to college for about 8 or 9 years and never got around to doing you have to go and be an apprentice in the school. And so she's been working in a game store, Games of Berkeley, for all these years. Yeah. And finally she's gotten around to going in the school and getting her hours of working as a teacher's assistant to be a school teacher. So she's finally, at 36, she's going to be a grammar school teacher.
Wonderful.
But she said she didn't know how to deal with kids because she's an only child until after she had her own kids, and now she can relate to it. But she didn't know how to relate to little kids before that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a little bit about more about your background. Like, what did your family do? I want to know more about your family background.
Oh, well, as it turns out, I'm sitting with my family right now. We are taking a trip from my folks live in northern Illinois in Rockford, and we're taking a trip into Chicago for the evening to see some comedy. So as it turned out, the trip happened in such a way that I had to be in the car, which I'm still in the car on the way to this on the way to this club, and now we've actually finally arrived, and we're sitting in the parking garage. And the whole family is here, actually. So, but I grew up in northern Illinois in the Midwest. I don't know. I guess I describe myself as, or at least I like to think of myself as having a very kind of balanced, relatively balanced kind of childhood. I wasn't the most popular kid, but I still had a bunch of friends. I didn't I didn't fit. I was a middle child, first of all, so I guess that already, puts me in a certain, balance. I mean,
the kids were there all together?
Just 3. Yeah.
3.
So this is probably my, part of my Buddhism talking here or something, but the balance that way, and then in terms of, we weren't or are not a wealthy family, but we're not, desperately poor either. So we're, basically middle class, and I went to school in, I guess you would say, gifted programs was what they were called back then. I'm not sure what they're called now.
Yeah, my daughter was in those classes.
Yeah. But I would say, for the most part, sort of thing, and then, but always with the sort of searching part of me that's sort of the artistic part, I guess you could say. So that started coming out a little bit more in college and high school and college, and then I said after I graduated from high school and I ended up going to, or at least finishing school down in at the U of I in Champaign-Urbana, and I spent quite a long time there, like probably 15. I actually think it was 17 years that I lived there. But it's a wonderful little college town. It's sort of Berkeley is I would say a more polished version of it, but it's has all the things that a wonderful college town has, with great places to eat and a little community radio station and a co-op and basically all the things that you would need, but big enough where interesting musical acts would come in and there was always something to do, but then small enough where just about everywhere I would go, I would see friends and be able to get a free coffee from this person or that person, and basically a very strong kind of community feel. So I've carried over that. Like, I think I learned a lot about community when I lived in Champaign-Urbana, and I've sort of carried that over now to where I live in Berkeley, and the group of friends that I'm lucky to have now, we're all pretty close and spend a lot of time together. In fact, we're doing when we get back, we're doing a New Year's party at our house with who knows, 15 to 30 people. We'll see who shows up.
Very cool. Oh my goodness. Let's talk a little bit more. I want to come back to some more of your writing. What other realms have you explored?
Well, like I said, when the grad school program, philosophy, cosmology, and consciousness, it's such a wide net, and that's always, I guess, been my area of interest, is all areas of interest. So I sort of looking at everything through the big picture lens, and most of my writing kind of does that and sort of gets to the root of the, what I would like to think are the important questions. What's going on? Why are we here? What is it to be a human being? What does that mean? What sort of philosophical questions, and of course how we answer those questions determines not only how we live our lives, but how our society is functioning and how it's structured. So probably within the last couple of years, most recently I've been writing a little bit more on the political side of things, because I was very inspired by Occupy when that movement was around. And you could say that it's still happening in some form or another, but when it was really in full swing in late 2011, that's actually when my book came out, and it wasn't, that book, The Four Global Truths, isn't a particularly, it's a little bit more ecological than political. So then my interest kind of shifted right about that time, and I began to, when I was giving my book talk, even for the first book, I was already kind of weaving in a lot of political material. So that's kind of where I'm finding myself these days, and kind of looking at the big questions in terms of changes that we need to make as a society and as a culture, and asking those questions of those same questions, like, what is it? What is to be human? How can we structure our lives in a way that's meaningful for us, and that helps preserve the planet and all that? So those are the big themes that I'm working with.
What do you design? It says you're a designer. What kind of things you design?
These days, it's book covers and book interiors, and strangely enough, it's when I first published, before I got published, my book published in 2011, before I was picked up by a publisher, I had published the book by myself, self-published it. And then now I'm actually working for that same company that I published the book through. It's called Create Space, and basically it's other people who are doing self-publishing their books, and obviously they need covers and they need interiors. They need their book to look presentable, and I do my best to make the book look pretty and give it a nice cover and draw
great.
people in. Yeah.
Are you going to have any kids? Are you planning on any kids?
We're planning on it, yes.
Oh, good. You guys would make some pretty babies and very smart.
Thank you.
The world needs some more good people.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, we would have very
enlightened people.
We would have very tall babies.
Good.
We're both quite
tall people too.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say that you. Go on. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say we've decided that we're elves. In terms archetypally, we're elf people, so we would have an elfin baby.
Oh, that's good.
I was going to say you actually hit home with me because Create Space is the home of both of my books at the moment.
Wonderful. Yeah, I was going to say I thought I heard a little glimmer of recognition there, and that's who knows? Maybe I'll be designing one of your book covers in the future.
Oh, that would be awesome! Absolutely awesome. Yes, I was going to ask if you were writing in the realm of poetry, and that's really where my home is at. So that's why I was curious to know more about your writings, because I'm a poet myself, and I really enjoy reading other people's poetry and reading their structure and where their thoughts are going and things of that nature. So, oh my goodness!
Yeah, well, beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that. I'm not a poet myself. I mean, I sort of make a separation between song lyrics and poetry, because I don't know. To me, they're different. There's a lot more meter that's expected in the songwriting craft, and it's a little bit more. It's almost mathematical, you could say. And
yes,
at least in terms of prose, there's I don't know. That to me is high art form. I think that's about as refined as the human mind can get when you read a really good poem. I'm not sure there's anything that's more moving, that speaks more directly to the soul than a good poem. So I long for a day when I can enter that realm more freely. But at the moment, I still again I think of myself more as a lyricist and not a poet, but love poetry.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it was great talking to you on the show. I had a blast this afternoon, and of course, Girl George, you always make a wonderful experience on GPR. This is actually her last episode with me, and she's going to begin her own program coming in January 5th, and it's going to be the Fabulous Girl George spin-off radio show. I am very excited about that. How about you, Girl George? Are you excited?
Oh, yes, it's going to be great. And Ricky Lee Robinson's going to be on the first show. He used to play with me at the Stork Club, and it's Story Plow. He's a great musician. And you're going to stay with me for a while and be my co-host for a while, right, on the new show?
Yes, I will do that.
Great,
absolutely.
Great. I'd miss you if you weren't there.
Oh, my goodness. So, Darrin, is there anything you want to plug?
Oh, well, I put in a few light plugs, but I might as well just mention it again. The book that came out in 2011 is called The Four Global Truths, and there is, in fact, a website, thefourglobaltruths.com, with the in front. And other than that, I guess people are welcome to come and see me on Facebook and, take a look at the art there. I have a few photo albums that are specifically art that I've been doing recently digitally. And if you want an astrology reading, you can contact my wife. She's an amazing astrologer. She's been doing it since she was 11, so she's got quite many years of experience. And she just put up her website, which is what AnnabelleDrda.com. Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. All righty then. So this is the final episode of 2013, and Girl George, we say goodbye to you from Gypsy Poet Radio. It was an exciting and awesome half hour with you, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen on your spin-off show coming January 5th. please look that up here on BTR. And it's going to be at blogtalkradio.com/girlgeorge. Look it up, people. It's going to be a lot of fun. She's a blast to listen to, and she makes things so much fun. She brought a sparkle and a joy to GPR. Thank you so very much, Darrin. I've enjoyed the afternoon. You are a joy to talk to. Your stories are enriching and insightful, and you bring so much to the world here. Thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you.
The Gypsy. Yes, absolutely. Thank you all very much. This is the Gypsy Poet signing off, ending at 2013 with the final episode of Gypsy Poet Radio, saying adio for now.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Is hot as hell.